everyone, and welcome to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy at TV. In case you're not a subscriber yet, please do subscribe. Just press the subscribe button as well as turn on the notification bell so that you can get notifications when we upload our videos. Don't also forget to subscribe and join, follow, like our other social media platforms. Of course, you're seeing it right about now. Don't also forget to share this video across your platforms. Enjoy the video. Welcome back, and let's bring that discussion now here to you, because I and Prof have started discussing during the break. Professor Uche Uwaleke, Professor of Capital Market, Nasarawa State University, joins me now. Prof, good to see you. Welcome to the program.
Thanks so much, Nancy. Compliments of the season.
Yes, of the season, because Easter is also by the corner.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's get started. Prof, how long can 24 hours mean? Because when we were chatting,
a whole lot.
A whole lot.
A lot has happened within 24 hours.
A whole lot has happened within 24 hours.
Yes.
Because, of course, we wanted to still talk about the NNPC and all of that, and it just changed. And that shows actually the dynamics of running a live show and all of that. So you just have to be on top of it. So how long is this 24 hours for you?
Well, I woke up this morning to read the news of the replacement of the Melekari and his board with a new set of people, and I think it's welcome news. It's welcome news because, of course, you want to inject a new blood in NNPC. Let me even start by congratulating the Melekari and his team for even what they did, the much they did, and also congratulate the incoming team. And for me, I think we have round pegs. The president has selected round pegs and round holes. I was looking at the names,
the profile,
and their profile, their backgrounds. So you realize that virtually all of them have had extensive experience in the oil and gas industry. Whether it's the chairman, that's talking about Kida Musa Kida, who has also been in the oil industry for years, or even the group CEO himself, Bayo Ojulari. Bayo Ojulari, we hear, has over 34 years experience in that sector, and of course, at some point he was the managing director of Shell, Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production. So these are people that are, bringing to the table, extensive experience. If you also look at the people representing the zones, whether it's Austin Navarro,
everyone knows Austin
the Seplat guy, or you're talking about Babs. Babs, the one for North Central. Babs used to be, you recall, the MD of LNG, or even David Ige too, that has also been in the oil industry for long, or Henry Obi, the person representing the Southeast, also used to be the executive director in Mobile. So when you look at them, they have a very, very solid background, and we are placing a lot of hope, in the team. And I think the 11-member team, as I said earlier on, will, bring a lot to the table, and will ensure that, we'll have a board that is effective.
Private sector.
Yes, private sector, but of course,
Yeah, private sector, most all true.
Yes, all
because
true.
This new GCEO now did not come from the ranks of NNPC, unlike Melekari that grew through the ranks, a geologist, walked his way through NNPC. But now this rejigging is sudden. What do you think about it? Because why I'm also asking that question, you've been a commissioner in Commissioner of Finance in Imo State. So you know what I'm talking about. For an example, in terms of when civil servants see someone from the outside, there's this kind of attitude towards people outside being appointed, perhaps them being inside not good enough to be appointed. But there's also the school of thought that, okay, these private sector guys, they do things differently, tap, tap, tap. We don't have time for too much long talk. If there's a problem, what's the solution and all of that? So
in fact, that's the cream of people we need in that sector, right now. Of course, not every member of that 11-member team is, you know, you say, is an outsider in quotes. Of course, you still have the CFO, for example.
The CFO,
Shego is still, you know,
Shego
is there. And of course, this person too has always been there. The permanent secretary, finance. As talking about Mrs. Ladi. I think those people will also help to, you know, shape, you know, conversations. But more importantly, I think it's important, particularly now that we are talking about, you know, taking NNPC to the market. Okay, the public must have that confidence that the board is an effective one, and that is why I'm excited that we'll have a lot more private, you know, sector people, you know, now being members of the board, including the people that ordinarily would have been just political appointees. The president had made sure that even in appointing people to represent the zones, you know, he has appointed round pegs, you know, in round holes. So that will, you know, give a lot of confidence to, you know, particularly the investment community out there. So we expect that going forward, a lot of investments can now come into the oil and gas sector, you know, on the confidence that people now have, you know, in the board of the NNPC.
You know, they say before you look forward, you look back.
Yeah.
You take a look at where you're coming from. Yeah. Let's take a look at where Mele Kyari, of course, when he assumed office as the GCEO, Mele Kyari served under President Buhari. Yeah. And also served under this president. In fact, a lot of people were expecting that when President Tinubu came in, that he would have changed him. Yeah. But I think he reappointed him again last year, in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. So let's take a look at where Mele Kyari ended his tenure. Some of the things, are there some things that really stood out for you under Mele Kyari's leadership?
Absolutely, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think Mele Kyari's tenure happens to be the longest.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. He took office in July 2019, and he's been there till this time. And that's why I think he's, you know, about the, you know, he's, you know, quite lucky in terms of, you know, that appointment. And I also think he paid his dues, you know, somehow, because I recall at the time he came in, the oil sector was, you know, quite, you know, in a turbulent, you know, stage. Oil production was very low, you know, at the time. So one could say that that we are doing up to 1.5 million barrels per day today is also partly on account of the efforts of, you know, Mele Kyari. Remember that time too, pipeline vandalism, oil theft, you know, was also very rife. So to some extent, Mele Kyari was able to, you know, deal with, you know, some of these challenges. And I also recall that as soon as he came in, he launched, you know, his roadmap, the TAPE, if you recall the TAPE roadmap, transparency, accountability, you know, performance excellence roadmap, okay, which now saw the company for the very first time in many years, you know, publishing financials, you know, releasing financials.
I remember then in 2020, yes. I interviewed the then CFO.
Yes.
Mr. Gia,
yes.
And I was shocked to my bone marrow that, NNPC could bring out results. Yes. I haven't seen it in almost 20 years of doing.
Yes, bring out results, and not only bringing out results. You recall for 3 consecutive years, 2020, I think it was 240 something billion, you know, profit that was declared. 2021, if you look at the financials, they declared over 670 billion. Then in 2023, okay, we saw a whopping 2.5 trillion, you know, profit. And of course, you know, as part of the requirements for even listing, okay, you must publish your financials and you must have a track record of, you know, profits for at least the preceding, you know, 3 years. So Mele Kyari, you know, was able to, you know, meet that. So in terms of transparency, in terms of removing the opacity, you know, that characterized that company, I think, you know, he did well, relatively well, you know, in that direction. And I also talked about his efforts and also helping to ramp up oil production, including the fixing of the refineries, particularly the Port Harcourt, old Port Harcourt.
Controversial one.
Yes, refinery.
Very controversial.
Yes. So I think much of the credit, should go to him. So he has, as I said earlier on, he has tried, he has, done his best. But I expect that the new team, of course, will take the company to, greater heights and properly reposition it for the listing that we are all expecting that will happen, in the near future.
Were you surprised about, announcement coming that there will be a listing and, of course, a withdrawal that there will be no listing again?
Yes,
were you surprised?
I was even surprised that, to hear that it was in the final stages and they were going to do, a beauty, parade. Yes, that was the one that came to me as a surprise, final stage, because I know, from what I know, you see, taking a company like that to the market, requires a whole lot of time. It took Saudi Aramco 4 years to be listed on the Tadawul. Now, if you take the history of some other national oil companies, whether it's Equinor in Norway or Petrobras in Brazil or even Rosneft in Russia, so you will see that it requires a number of years. So I have not seen, I don't know whether you have seen, any roadmap, any IPO roadmap from NNPC, coming up from NNPC Ltd. And also, when we're talking about the new team, this is also one of the things I would like them to do, to come up with the roadmap. Let's have a roadmap. What are you supposed to do pre-IPO, for example? What are the things you're supposed to do? First, of course, you have to get your corporate governance right, which is why I'm happy that the president has started the process by changing the board. Of course, the Companies and Other Matters Act, I think Section 275 makes it clear that a board must have a minimum of 3 non-executive directors, one of which must be an independent director. So the way it is, it would appear that the board of the NNPC is properly constituted, because the ones from the zones, to a large extent, you would say they don't have any material interest in the company, so they can qualify as independent directors. So you have a board, so that's the first step. The next step is for there to be an audit. So I expect this new board to quickly get, the likes of KPMG. Of course, I just read KPMG is now going to be acquired by Deloitte. So, Deloitte, PwC, of course, PwC has always been their external auditors, to get them to do, including the local audit firms here, to do a proper, audit of NNPC. The good news, or the good thing about even the what I read about the change in the board, the president has given them a marching order. The president has said that one of the first things they should do should be to review the entire portfolio of assets of NNPC, including their joint venture, assets. So review them. So that should be the first step. Let us even know, how much NNPC owns and how much NNPC is owing. The entire assets should be reviewed, because that will go a long way in even the valuation of NNPC.
Yes.
Valuation of NNPC.
As it goes to the
valuation
market.
of NNPC Limited is a major step in the listing process. You have to value the company. So the president has asked them to do that. So I expect them to also have a roadmap. So there should be a roadmap that says these are the things we intend to do. The process that will eventually culminate in the listing. So that is what Bayo Ojulari should be concerned with, and I'm very sure that it's something that he can handle. So it's important, looking at the history of other national oil companies, as I said earlier on, to have a roadmap for listing. If you don't have a roadmap for listing, you wouldn't be serious about listing, because we've been hearing about listing an NNPC since 2021. Up to now, we still don't know where we are with regard to listing. You can't list without, as I said, proper corporate governance. You can't list without a proper valuation before you even begin to seek approvals, from whether it is SEC, the NGX, CAC, and the rest of them. So all this must be in place before you talk about even appointing your advisors and then, executing the listing. So we don't even know, for example, what the IPO structure will look like. Okay, whether they plan to do 20% of the shares of NNPC. We were discussing before the program started. I was telling you that NNPC has outstanding shares of 200 billion. Okay, out of that 200 billion, the Federal Ministry of Finance Incorporated holds 100 billion. The Ministry of Petroleum is having 100 billion. So NNPC Limited is still completely owned by the government.
Because that's also negates, and I remember that I talked about this when the furore around, NNPC Limited, now we've changed our name from NNPC, Nigerian National Petroleum Company. And in fact, I don't know why those of us in the media still called NNPCL. The name of the company is NNPC Limited.
Yes.
There's nothing like NNPCL anymore. It's NNPC Limited. That is the company because it's now a commercial company with Kama. But even with that, with what we're saying now, I talked about this that time it came out. I think it was in 2022 they did that commercialization of NNPC.
Yes, of course it came with the PIA 2021.
Yes. So with what the president has done, does it really now align with that vision of a commercially driven national oil company? Because it's just like...
it does. It does, yes. You see, there's a difference between... No, it does. You are confusing. There's a difference between commercialization and privatization. Yes.
So I understand that.
Yes. So what has happened is simply commercialization. Ownership is still with the government. But what we are saying, what we're advocating is that NNPC Limited should be part privatized.
Yes.
Part privatized, in line with modern, national oil companies. And I just gave you some examples. Equinor, that used to be Statoil, Norway, is today part privatized. The Equinor got listed on the Oslo stock exchange as far back as 2001. And when they did that, they sold 17.5% of their shares. Today, the government only has about 6-7% of Equinor. And Equinor, if you can check, Equinor is one of the most successful national oil companies, in the world. Look at the recent case of Saudi Aramco in 2019.
They just sold a slice of...
Yes,
they
just and got over
$2.5 trillion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So they got so much, and I also think that there are potentials also in getting NNPC listed.
But is NNPC Limited poised? This NNPC Limited now, is it poised to get that kind?
That's why I talked about a plan, a program, that will also involve, evaluation, even knowing what I've looked at some valuation, numbers, possible valuations of NNPC, whether it's the net asset value, which of course gives the most, valuation. NNPC today has, if you look at the upstream, they have a number of assets, 27 billion, barrels of, oil, reserves. You have in the midstream, you talk about their pipelines, over 5,000 kilometers of pipelines, including the AKK, Ajokota, Kaduna Kano, West African gas pipeline. You have over 20, storage, the depot. Then downstream, their refineries are there. You have retail stations, over 600 and so on. So they have massive assets. And then they also have subsidiaries. Some of them even profitable. So I think one thing they can also do, which Malaysia, tried to do, is rather than wait until you get NNPC, you clean up entire NNPC and list, which will take years, they can also begin to also maybe consider listing their profitable subsidiaries. That's what Malaysia did. Malaysia Petronas. Petronas is not listed on the Bursa Malaysia, but Petronas subsidiaries, such as their gas company, is listed on the Bursa Malaysia. So that is one option, But as I said, for some other countries, what they have done is to take just a piece of it to the market, the case of Saudi Aramco, for example, it was just a piece. So today, if the valuation of NNPC, I was also looking at their PE multiples valuation, which is lower than the net asset value. If the valuation of NNPC is, say, roughly 100 billion, and NNPC is taking 10% of that, to the market. So that's $10 billion, right? So that is $10 billion. And NNPC, the company can do a lot with $10 billion in terms of, fixing the refineries, for example, Okay, and even clearing their loans. NNPC loans today is about 6 billion.
You see that NNPC, in fact, getting loans perhaps on behalf of us, as it were, you know, in terms, you're also seeing the collateral, as it were, Nigerian oil. But if we take a look at this new GCO, Bayo Ojulari, considering his extensive background in the oil sector, what strength do you think he brings to the table? That's one question. The other question is the composition of the board. What strengths do you think that the board would also bring in terms of corporate governance? And I'm choosing my words carefully because I've looked at the names, of course. What impact do you think that these board level changes will have on decision making and corporate governance at NNPC Limited? I'm asking this question intentionally because I know that there's a political undercurrent to when it comes to NNPC Limited. I mentioned at the beginning of the program that it's a cash cow.
Yeah.
You know, President Tinubu is the Minister of Petroleum.
Yeah.
I think he shouldn't be. I've always said it, I shouldn't be, and I still stand on it. I've not seen any president, and anyway, President Obasanjo started it, so you're saying, I don't think he should be the Minister of Petroleum, but you're seeing that there's so much attention there. Why shouldn't the President be Minister of Agriculture, for example? Yes. Why shouldn't he be Minister? You understand what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's so much political attachment to that. So these people, do you think that they will really stand their grounds in terms of corporate governance at the board level?
Yeah, let me start. Let me start by saying that you see, oil still remains the mainstay of the Nigerian economy. And in many economies, that is also the case. In many oil-producing economies, that's the case. And in these other oil-producing economies, the government has always maintained held majority shares. You wouldn't want to relinquish your shares. You wouldn't want to divest in such a way that you lose control. So government should always and will always be controlling the national oil companies. Okay? What is important is in the corporate governance aspects of it. What is important is in the management of the company. Okay? Ensuring that it is in good hands, it is properly managed. Okay? To the point where they can bring about, the management can bring about profitability. Profitability that will also impact the minority shareholders. Okay, so talking about the composition of this board, you mentioned the group MD, the Bayo.
Yeah.
Okay, now going by what I have read, if that is anything to go by, okay, I think he's a fit and proper person for that position. Okay, you're asking what is likely to bring on the table. If you look at his background in Shell, okay, he used to be the managing director of Shell Nigeria Petroleum.
And most recently,
yes.
Renaissance.
Renaissance that also
yes,
acquiring Shell. Yeah, so his track record in Shell and what he was able to do there, okay, gives me hope that he's going to bring that experience to rub off positively, on the fortunes of NNPC. And the others too that I mentioned with their vast experience in the oil and gas sector. So I think that is what, when you talk about board, it's important that in the board you have people that are well experienced, are well knowledgeable about the industry. Okay? Even in the case of the president, it's an 11-member board.
Yes.
Okay? The Minister of Petroleum, by Section 59 of the PIA, okay, Petroleum Industry Act 2021, the Minister of Petroleum is a member of the board.
That's President.
That's the president. But where you now have a president that is also the minister, that's why he now appointed, okay, somebody to represent him on the board. So I don't see anything, wrong with that. And I think they will, these people should be able to exercise, enough sufficient independence, to run the company. And that's also why it's important that this issue of listing, okay, of NNPC on the exchange is taken a lot more seriously, because one of the requirements for listing, once it lists, one of the benefits of listing will be this improved corporate governance. The company will now be required to publish their financials quarterly, semi-annually, and annually. So that is now taken for granted, and the public, international community will have more confidence in a national company that is listed.
Let's take a look at some of the challenges that Mele Kyari also had. Challenges around oil theft, which is still on, though we've seen it reduce a bit. Challenges of the subsidies controversy, definitely. Challenges of even dwindling production. Challenges of price volatility. We had 2 recessions during President Buhari. We saw oil falling. We saw oil price falling to almost $0. You know, $20 a barrel for oil. So how do you think that this new management, of course, with Bayo Ojulari now, what do you think that he himself and his team, well, of course, when they come on board, should do to be able to restore immediately the financial health of NNPC Limited? We've addressed the fact that there are cash illiquidity concerns also in NNPC Limited, debt obligations and all of that. So what should Bayo Ojulari be doing in terms of restoring financial health? And the CFO is still there,
Shegun,
Mr. Shegun, yes.
Well, of course, it's to look at the factors, you know, both external factors and the ones that are exogenous. For exogenous factors, there's little the team, you know, can do about it. What's at best they can only provide for it. When I mean exogenous factors, I'm referring to the volatilities you have in the oil industry. Yes, exactly. But the interesting thing now, or the cheering news now, is that oil price is still, you can say, compared to what we have used in the budget of 2025, $75 per barrel, okay, is still within favorable range. So to a large extent, you can also say the market conditions are still there.
Are you optimistic? How bullish are you with President Trump? Prof.
Yes.
There's a President Trump in town. How bullish are you?
Yes, there's a President Trump in town. But I also think, remember to, well, you could say some unfavorable developments in the world, okay, impact the market positively. So when you hear of tensions, I'm not saying we should, you know, but you know, tensions too somehow tend to push up, you know, oil prices. Yeah, so is either way. But on the other side, some of the factors, the endogenous ones within which, you know, the team or even the country can handle. Talking about oil production, okay, the president has said, okay, one of the mandates is that they should ensure that they do up to 2 million barrels per day, you know, by 2027, and then 3 million barrels per day by 2030. Okay, of course, it's not what the team would be able to do alone. Of course, that will also mean getting the security, you know, working in very close concert with the security agencies to ensure that pipeline vandalism is completely, you know, a thing of the past. But of course, the team has a duty to ensure that more investments are attracted to the sector. Okay, don't forget to, the NNPC also has a stake in the Dangote refinery. Okay, it used to be 20. It used to be about, yes, it used to be 20. Now we hear it's 7%. Yes, but what is important? They still have a stake, you know, in that. So it's important too for this team to have a very good relationship with Dangote.
Perhaps we will get to also hear issues around the Naira for crude.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So that issue must also be there. So whatever they do, it's important that their actions, okay, should tend to encourage Dangote refinery and some other independent, players.
Prof, let's use the next few minutes to talk about the ISA. I will still look at it fully though, but I don't want to say let's gloss over it. Okay. President Tinubu has signed a new law repealing the 2007. For our viewers, I would like you to, you know, provide like an overview of the provisions of this new act, and perhaps even for those watching, what it means for them. For those that are investing in the capital market, I've warned many times on the show, don't invest in Ponzi schemes.
Yeah, thank you, thanks. Yes,
you know, and pyramid schemes.
You can say that again and again and again, and particularly for pyramid schemes, you know, the penalties have now been made stiffer. Promoters of Ponzi schemes now risk a jail time of, as long as 10 years. So
I even feel that 10 years is too small.
10 years. So that should serve as a disincentive. But let me even start by commending all the actors, because this bill has been there for a long time. If you notice, 2007 was a year we had so many financial,
it was
laws.
A market that was vibrant at that
CBN
time.
CBN Act of 2007, Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2007, NDIC Act of 2007.
A lot of things happened there.
It happened, yes, including the ISA of 2007. Yes, but of course, the NDIC Act has been amended to have now 2003. So some of them are undergoing amendments, and I think that what has happened now is very much in order. And I was saying that it's important I commend the actors, or the capital market community, of course led by the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the National Assembly committees on the capital market. But more importantly, the champion of this act, and that champion is the Chairman Senate Committee on Capital Markets. That's distinguished Senator Osita Izunazo, because it was his bill. It was not an executive bill. Okay, it was the bill that Senators Osinato sponsored and made sure that followed it up and ensured that the president signed it. So I want to salute his effort. That committee, which he shares has done a lot for the capital market by the signing of this bill. Now, coming to the major provisions, I was telling you that 2007 was, if you check, a lot has happened since 2007. The issue of 2007 Act didn't provide for digital assets. So what this one has done is to enlarge the powers of SEC. Okay, to SEC, digital assets have now been recognized as securities. Okay, so no more regulatory overlap between SEC and the central bank. Okay, as opposed to what you have in some other jurisdictions. In the US, for example, the Federal Reserve does not regulate
securities,
cryptocurrencies. Yeah. Okay, it's between the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, between the even SEC and the Internal Revenue Service. Okay, so Fed doesn't do that. Now, so that is one thing. So virtual assets, we now expect more virtual assets, service providers, going forward. Now, there is also the issue of regulations around commodities exchanges. Okay, it will also enhance, whatever they do. So we want to see that drop off positively on the agri, sector, particularly agri and mining sector. Okay, regulations to even around the raising of funds by subnationals. Okay, it has relaxed some of the provisions to ensure that subnationals can now access funds, from the market. There's also the issue of investor protection fund. Okay, and then the issues around insider and market manipulation have also been handled. The classification of
composite and non-composite exchanges.
Yes, that which will also help investors in making decisions, particularly institutional investors. All right, the pension funds and so on, they are more interested in the composite form. So for the investor, okay, out there, what it has done is to improve transparency, market integrity. Okay, so people can now invest their money and afford to go to bed
with their two eyes
closed, because they know that there is somebody, the Securities and Exchange Commission now has more powers to protect their interest in the market.
Thank you very much, Prof, for providing insight and perspectives to our discussion this morning.
My pleasure.
How time flies.
How time flies, yes.
So we hope to have you soon.
Yes.
Prof, don't be running away. Don't be running away.
We are together now. You said you are on the platform. You said you learned a lot from the platform. I'm sure the platform is one of mine.
Yes. The platform Prof is talking about is the Capital Markets Academics platform, which you've adopted me into.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you very much for being on the show today. All right, I've been speaking with Professor Uche Uwaleke, Professor of Capital Market, and I'll say the first capital market professor in Nigeria. So this news is also sharing news for you, because this is your community. Capital Market Professor at Nasarawa State University. Thank you all for joining us today. Be the best you can be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Thank you for making it up to this minute watching the video. Thank you all. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy TV. Like, follow all our other social our media, our platforms, where we keep you up to speed with fantastic interviews, as well as markets, personal finance, business, and economy information. This is the best place to be. I'll see you all again in the next video.